All right. Thank you for joining with us today. For all the folks who've joined us today, we have Salesforce Marketers Cloud Bootcamp for Singapore, and we have plenty of sessions which are going on. And if anyone wanted to see the prior sessions, so we have our channel, the YouTube recording sessions are all available. I can just ping the link. Probably can just subscribe the same channel, or else you can go through all the videos. I'm going to put that into our chat box. Right. And we have plenty of sessions which are going on for the next couple of days, in the next 2-3 months, probably. So we have our data cloud session, which is going on. We have a data cloud session, the next data cloud session, which is on next Tuesday, which is data model setup and other sales service marketing cloud connecting with data cloud. And we have our data cloud sources, like how we can connect data cloud to IS, data cloud to S3, and how we can bring the data from different sources. On top of data cloud, so we are going to start automation studio and the journey builder. We have 5 sessions. That is, Vishal is going to talk about it. We have an automation studio and the journey builder, which is going to be happen in the next 2 weeks. And after that, we have our this data cloud parallel. We have Tuesday and Wednesday, we have data cloud sessions. And after that, we have a couple of sessions on marketing cloud development. Now, after automation and journey builder, we're going to start with the marketing cloud development. So we have a great speakers for all the sessions. So this marketing cloud developer, so you can look at all the development activities, data views with different scenarios, web studio, and then SSJS and the AMP script and everything. And we have SQL, different use cases, and we have APIs, we have SDKs. So we're covering all the development activities from different speakers altogether. So it's a great sessions from the great speakers in the next couple of days. Is going to have in the next 2-3 months. So ideally, in a week, we are conducting 5 sessions. We have Tuesday and Wednesday for data cloud, and Thursday, Saturday, Sunday for normal marketing cloud. All right. So that's what we have sessions update. So when it comes to our bootcamp, so we would really love to thank each and everyone who are joining with us on daily basis, and then grab some sort of knowledge in marketing cloud. And then, of course, you guys are really good in marketing cloud. So I think we are all brushing our skills, and at the same time, we're all learning something new, which we really not sure, because we can't say that everyone knows 100% of marketing cloud, but we're all still improvising and learning in marketing cloud. And I would really say thanks for each and everyone who's joining with us. And a couple of housekeeping rules. So in this session, this is ask me anything session. So you could use chat box to ask the questions. Post session, if you want to ask anything, you can use this bit.ly link for posting any question to speakers or the organizers. We have our YouTube channel where I've posted the link in sessions. You can go and then look at all the past recording sessions. And of course, all throughout, you can scan the QR code as well. If you're not available for linking the, clicking the links and all. So for the future sessions, as I said, you can just sign up for all the future sessions. I'm just going to paste the link of our future sessions so that you will go and then just register for rest of the sessions as well. All right, so that's what we have for an introduction. But before that, we have our episode 19, Ask Me Anything session. We have a couple of introductions from a panelist, and we have an agenda. I think we were requesting you to ask some questions on a couple of doubts in marketing cloud on a use cases or anything that you wish to have. And I definitely going to help you out answering all the questions. If not, I'm going to get back and answer those questions as well. Through a LinkedIn or Twitter, I can directly post a message. And we have a couple of Q&A, and we can talk about the next session details as well. So we have a quiz on the next session because it's the end of the week. So we're going to give you a hoodie, Salesforce hoodie for the event winner on the Tuesday session. And we have an organizing team, successfully conducted more than 25 plus sessions. Really thank you for all your participation and giving us a lot of momentum, a lot of energy for us to conduct so many sessions on the marketing cloud. We have Abhishek Nagar, Vishal, Prashant, and myself. So we're all conducting a bootcamp in the Singapore region. And so I would love to ask Kanika to introduce herself, and then we can start the session as well. I think we have a couple of experts. So Kanika, she's from Pune Marketing Cloud, the Trailblazer Community Group Leader. I think I'll ask her to introduce herself. Thank you. You can go ahead and introduce yourself, Kanika. Thank you.
Thank you, Pani, for introducing me. So just giving my quick intro. So my name is Kanika. I lead Pune Trailblazer community. I'm 6X certified and I work as a marketing cloud consultant at Athelius.
Yeah, I think this session is something interacting, everyone. Thank you, Kanika, for giving your introduction. Thank you so much for joining with us today as well. So this session, ideally, would like to interact on the queries on the marketing cloud, especially on the email studio. So whatever the sessions we've completed so far on the email side, just please ask us if any questions you have. We have Aishwarya as well and Akash, and we have a couple of other folks who are really good at marketing cloud. So really, requesting everyone to jump wherever is required and then can, clarify those questions as well. Yeah, you can pose the questions whenever you have any questions, you can post us and then we can clarify those questions as well. So if not, meanwhile, I'll talk about a couple of things which I feel, is really loud to share with you guys. So I'll share my screen as well. So meanwhile, you can ask questions if you wish to have any questions. If you have, I would requesting you to go and then put your questions all there. So normally, just a kind of use case. I would like to take some feedback from the audience as well. So let's take an example. So you have a requirement from a company. All right, let's take an example. There's an ex company who wants to build a couple of emails. Let's take an example. There's a company called maybe we can calling as an Ericsson, or maybe we can calling as maybe Abbott. So Abbott is a pharma company, and what Abbott does is Abbott have a lot of countries who manages the marketing cloud, and there is one COE team for Abbott who runs the entire whole marketing cloud campaigns. All right, they run whole marketing cloud campaigns. All right, campaigns. So the fundamental reason for COE is to manage all the marketing cloud development sites. So they are the one who deliver all the marketing cloud for across all the countries. Let's take an example. So they have a countries called Australia, they have countries called Singapore, right? So there are countries called Japan, and the countries, we have countries India, right? Like this, you have almost like somewhere around like 15 to 20 countries. They're managing marketing cloud because these are all the countries interested to launch on marketing cloud campaigns. All right. So essentially, what it does is for the strategy of marketing cloud. So each and every country, what we suggest is to have a separate business unit, because each and every country has their own complaints and regulatory policies and their own data policies as well. So each and every Australia BU, so they do have a Singapore BU, SGBU, or they do have Japan BU, and then they have India BU as well. Like each and every country, they're gonna go with specific BAs, the business units, what they would like to implement their work, because some of the content where they'll only COE have a responsibility to manage some sort of campaign generation. Let's suppose there's a central campaign team who runs the campaigns for every country, but in terms of a content, they're not responsible for it, because they are the campaigns who design the email, who design the AMP script, who designs the cloud pages and everything, but they're not responsible for the content, because our internal COE developers don't have an access or don't have a depth on building a content or providing a content, because these pharma companies are leveraging their own internal Vault system, because every country they're using Viva Vault as a platform, because Viva Vault is a platform for content management, a CMS platform, who provides MLR regularities, nothing but medical legal regularity compliance, MLR compliance. So once these all complaints has been approved, once the document is approved, then they'll request this document to be integrated to Marketing Cloud, to the corresponding BU or the central BU that what they would like to go ahead with. Maybe Abbott is, they would like to go with one is the primary BU, right? So under primary BU, you have all these are child BUs, right? These are all the child BUs. So when Vault is a CMS system for them, so they're using document upload. Once it's approved, then really there is a integration which you can work it out, because this Vault is sitting on AWS S3. So you could expose some services with Marketing Cloud, MC APIs, and then you can use your content builder APIs to store your content back to your central BU, or you can target this to your country BUs also. All right. So this is the kind of solution that everybody does that. When the document is approved, so it automatically fall under Marketing Cloud, one of the Marketing Cloud content builder folder. Let's take an example, a kind of a folder, the main folder, which all the approved documents will set. Right. So the biggest question is, once you get all the assets, because the primary BU has an access of all the assets, where the COE team will go and then access all the assets here. So the question is, so if a person want to build an email template, because the central campaign team has been responsible for building an email template, okay, for the whole countries, because you see all the data which has been connected to your CMS system and which is go through a content builder APIs, and then they'll go landing into your primary business unit into one of the folder, right? So what the person has done is, so this person will categorize the documents into different kind of folders inside your content builder. Let's take an example. They create a good content builder structure where they can leverage AU folder, AU assets, where all assets will sit under Australia, folder, right? Now this team, the email template, the developers who design the email template, the dev team is going to access the AU assets, and then they can go and then design the template for Australia, right? So they'll design a template for Australia. So the same thing will happen for Singapore, Japan, and India. But the real truth is, it is the most robust and most disciplined kind of an architecture. So if you look at, if it keep changing, if you keep increasing the countries, I suppose currently it is 4 countries, but down the line, so they'll come back with some 70 countries, and they would like to leverage the same assets maybe down the line. So they would like to go ahead with maybe another 45 or 50 countries, maybe 70 plus countries, right? So 70 plus countries, you would like to build a 70 business units, because business units is okay, because with their compliance, data security, and all the stuff, still it's okay to have a multiple business unit structure, because they're a healthcare company who does a lot of compliance, a lot of security, and all the stuff. So it's absolutely okay to have the 70 plus countries to be hosting on the Marketing Cloud business units. But the real truth is, if you look at the development side, so if you keep building a template for Australia, Singapore, Japan, India, and all the countries, because they use a common content, or not exactly, similar kind of a content. They use header and footer as a common. So they use the subscription preferences as a common. So they use the couple of other assets are the common. But really, do we really think that to create 70 email templates for each and every country, is it something which you're gonna recommend as a best practice, or what do you suggest? Like, are you gonna leverage the dynamic content? So I'll hear from the audience, like, what is the best approach that you guys will follow? My question is, one single template I would like to build for all the 70 plus countries. So are you going to take this approach for one template with 70 countries, or are you going to leverage a dynamic email content or a dynamic email kind of a structure? Let me see if anyone has a question. Lakshmi, for 70 countries, right? I think it's not an optimal. Nobody does that, because you don't have you have a rules which you can map the country equal to Australia and all, and then match it. But currently it is 70, but later it goes to another 70. So you don't have that limits. You don't have that level of organization available in Marketing Cloud. No one will recommend that dynamic content concept. Dynamic content concept can work you out for maximum like max 4 to 5 kind of a countries. But for this robust and rapid, if you go to enterprise company, Lakshmi, so the enterprise companies thinks in such a way that they would like to leverage, because you create 70 folders. You create each and every folder subfolders for managing some more content, like, so it doesn't feel nice. So how do you want to design, ideally for making your lives easier, or for making your developers' lives easier? So what is the best optimal way that you can go and do it? Yeah. So ideally, if you can look at this, so what we ideally do is, because we're going to face this kind of a scenarios long back. So what we have done is, So we come up with one structure of one email template. So this is a major email template. This is one single email template. For that respective campaign, which runs for all the 70 plus countries. So this major campaign template. So what we does is we're going to create one data extension. Only one single data extension. That campaign, the DE campaign name is like X campaign. X campaign. So with this X campaign, so what we does is, so we're going to leverage within the campaign. I'm going to design attributes of country underscore language, which is required field, and we have header, we have footer. So I'm going to design attributes first within the data extension, country, language, header, footer, or their footer image if they have any different kind of an image for the footer, and whatever the body text, and you have the CTA links if anything, which you have. If you have too many CTA links, like CTA links 1, CTA links 2, and all this thing with the right names, ideally, not a clumsy kind of a names. Put the right names in the attributes. Once you design these attributes, once you design the structure, so the next step, what you're going to do is you're going to do insert the records. So for 70 countries, I'm going to leverage 70 records, right? For each and every country, I have a country language, India, IN, English is like English underscore EN, IN underscore EN. Header, I have to, I'm going to get the where my India folder sits under India assets. I'm going to copy that respective URL and then put it into my header, and footer image, body text, CTA links, and all. So I'll know what are all the links and all. So I'm going to create 70 records for all the 70 countries. So I'm using an AMP script to call this. I'm just leveraging my AMP script. Or a couple of functions I'm going to leverage, like the select, or I'm going to leverage VLOOKUP functions to go and then call this record with the country. If the respective persons, now if you want to test it out, so I have my user, I have my data extension ready with the testing data. So with the testing data, I know that my person record. So my contact is country basically from India. So ideally, with this kind of a concept of this data extension, the person can only see the India assets. The person will receive an email with India content and Indian regional email template. So with this, what will happen is, so whenever you want to change, let's take an example. You use this as a base kind of a data extension. So you're going to build some other template for 70 countries, or if you want to build this one more campaign for 30 countries, I would recommend to clone the same thing, and then you could just add some more attributes for another campaign. So like this, what will happen is for each and every campaign, you're not designing 70 folders for designing a data extension. So you could leverage one data extension for managing all your content, and you have your own master data for previewing the data from different countries people ask for, right? So this is a good optimal way that would recommend and suggest for everyone who wants to build some good great campaigns. Yeah.
Panin, I just want to add on to this.
Yes. Yeah.
So similar kind of a requirement came to me also when I was working on one of the projects. So where there was an edtech company, and edtech company has a tie-up with multiple colleges. So they were being tied up with 20 colleges, and every college has its own programs to be there. Yeah. So if they end up having almost 200 types of emails to be designed and send it to the customer, because a student can enroll for any of the program in any of the colleges. So we went ahead with this similar kind of approach only, where we created 2 data extensions. So one data extension, we named it as a branding data extension, which stores all the kind of fonts or maybe text styling, which is more driven by the colleges. And there was another data extension, which was having a content, which was being more dragged by the program names. Taking example, if like ISB is a school in India, so ISB schools has multiple programs like digital marketing and finance courses. So the ISB has its own personal kind of a branding. That was one data extension. Another data extension was a program name, which was digital marketing, have a certain kind of a content within that. It can be the first para content, it can be the hook line content, it can be a footer content. These kinds of content is being dragged by that.
Yeah.
So two data extensions were being called within one email template. So we end up, so while completing an implementation, so it was like thousands of emails has been reduced to just in a single digits. So that's a power of the solution that you just explained to the team.
Yep. That's right. Yeah. So the next question is, I want to ask how to create public and private key management in PGP Studio. So key management. So I think Latasha, you're asking about this one, right? You want to create a SSH keys? Okay, let's look at Lakshmi. Funny is already asked, but what is the dynamic content? Then I was thinking what you explain as dynamic content, which is DE with all required attributes, with each country respective attribute. Okay, all right. Lakshmi, dynamic content is the one which you, if you go to any email template, right, Lakshmi? So, in the email template, so you have a dynamic content which you can drag and drop the element, the respective block of the dynamic content, and then you could define some rules to display the data from. If you see the rule which is country equal to India, and then you can only manage get the image, or you need to enter some text as well, right, for the respective block where the India customer to display only some sort of a content. But can you imagine to build an email template with 70 countries with 70 different kind of images, different kind of a text, different kind of a thing? It won't support, the email won't be supported for more than 10 countries if I'm asking wrong. Yeah, drag and drop is not possible with this kind of a logic. You have to leverage an AMP script. Yeah, this is purely using an AMP script. That's what I've kept as a blank here. This is an AMP script. So when we go to the customer, Lakshmi, always we have two kind of a solutions where, so for an enterprise company versus small, medium business company. For a small, medium business company, so mostly very few customers leveraging dynamic content where they don't have a much business on different countries because they only have a business on one country, but they have an internal business on running different kind of retailer business, retailers or some sort of partners they have. So with this 2 to 3 personas, I think that is a best practice for using a dynamic content. But for an enterprise companies who manages the content for 70 plus or 200 countries or 100 countries, want to leverage the same dynamic content from displaying or retrieving the data from different things, I think the best approach is an AMP script. Yeah.
Panit, to add on to it, there's a couple of issues that come while designing these types of an email template. The first, which I came across, was that to structurize these email templates, because you have to follow the particular branding or particular kind of an structure only. It's not like somewhere you want a double column, somewhere you want a single column, though we were able to achieve using a content blocks, but not much of a design modifications can be done when we use this type of approach. The another problem that comes into play when we use this kind of approach is that the design of an email template should be done in a good way, which means our developer should be well versed with an HTML and a CSS, because we will not be using much of a drag and drop system. A lot of AMP script is being inputted into it. The third problem that we faced is that if we start sending an email, so we have a testing data extension, but we don't have a content in its back. Then while sending, it start giving an error, and maybe sometimes the jobs get broken up. So this was a classic problem that we faced in the initial of our development when we were sending an emails to the journey builder, because the content D was not having a specific kind of a content for that particular test record, and emails were being, the marketing cloud was trying to send again and again those emails, but they were not getting a data from the back end. That's why, because of too much errors, the job got broken up and the future sends were not able to be sent. So while designing these kinds of a structure, a rigorous testing is required. Without rigorous testing, it's not a good idea to use these email templates.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So do you face anything as such, team, so anything that you guys are currently doing in marketing cloud where, so not only this kind of a scenario, but this is one of the great scenario for an enterprise company, especially there are some, there are some areas where people ask me a question. So funny, we have a CMS system where we would like to ingest the content, because content one way is what enterprise people does is, so for every country, they come up and saying that for the COE teams, so with my experience, I'm telling for different companies, like every country, pointing it to one single source of COE, center of excellence for every company. So if the COE and Australia or Singapore or Japan or India, so what that does is they'll not intactly work with those kind of countries, because you have to pay some sort of your budget to the COE team to manage the content and all. So in respect of Australia, a customer knows Australia agencies where they are very ingesting towards to work with agencies of Australia for the content. So what they do is actually they'll have their internal agency team. Like, Australia has their content agency team who provide the content for their entire marketing cloud assets, irrespective of emails or SMS or anything. So they use their own internal content agency team for Australia. So they'll recruit other content for Singapore. They have Japan, and they have, because Japan, China, Russia, so they definitely has to go to their internal only, because practically for us, we can't able to build for those peculiar countries. So if you look at all these countries, right, their own agency teams. So this agency team, either one way is, we have our campaign manager. We have our campaign manager who who talks to the each and every campaign manager, who talks to each and every country to execute the campaigns in Marketing Cloud. So this is a person where the ideal process is the content team has to hand over assets to the campaign manager. So between campaign manager, there is a proofreader from each country who approves the entire content. If you don't have a CMS system, okay, this is a concept of, if the client don't have a CMS system, so they have a proofreader who submits the content to campaign manager. Campaign manager will extract all the content in a zip file, and then they'll hand it over the zip file to our internal COE teams to build the campaigns. What our internal COE team does is, the developers or internal COE team who uploads the content into a different folders of their content or different countries of their folders, and then they'll manage and create the campaigns. So that's the process of if this kind of a customer comes up with their own agency and all the work. But there is one more scenario where, as I said, there is a content team. This content team go with this kind of a scenario, but Japan has a money. Okay, let's take an example. Japan has a budget for building an API kind of a solution. So this Japan country, what it does is, so this Japan country, they'll go and then they don't have any agency, but what it does is, they do have an agency, but this agency works with the Vault team. So Vault is a CMS system for pharma companies. What that does is, from Vault, they'll ingest the data, and then it will go to the approved. Once it's approved by medical, legal, regulatory kind of a compliance teams, it will go to via S3. It'll go to using content builder APIs. You can go and then get the data into one of your main primary BU folder. So that's one of the scenario as well. So particularly, it's a different kind of scenarios when you're working with different kind of use cases for different kind of countries. But for each and every country, if your COE is strong and then put some sort of regulations that you have to leverage only API route, then everybody go with the same route. So this is my first priority, that I would always recommend to have one structured kind of integration pattern for everyone to leverage it. And some countries, they don't have budget now, they'll come with we want a manual kind of an approach. So this is a manual kind of an approach where campaign manager will extract the data in a zip file, and then they'll hand it over to our development team to upload to their country folders. So these are all the two scenarios where I would really thought about it. But not only Viva Vault is a content, but there is another called Adobe. There is AEM platform, Adobe Experience Manager. There's AEM also kind of a content CMS system. So this also could use the same kind of route. So you could build an APIs, and this AEM has their own internal APIs where they'll directly talk to Marketing Cloud, or you could expose through an APIs, which is hosting on AWS, where they have to design those APIs to talk to Marketing Cloud via content builder APIs. So these are all one more scenario. Ideally, it's going to be happen. Yeah. Let me see if any questions. So, Akash, Latasha, the question is, this is really tricky, the one which you're asking is creating public and private keys. So, Akash went on, putty for creating this SSH. We can call it a key, public and private keys in Marketing Cloud. We're calling as our SSH keys. So the SSH key pair to pair with one of your internal SFTP user is the one which you required mostly. So There are many ways to create the key. One way is to create a key is you could use your command terminal and you can create a key and you could define the original file name and then you could design the complete key with the respective format. So there is another way you use to use your Mac terminal. So if I'm using a Mac, so I'm going to use my Mac terminal and how to generate the key, how to create a key, because they're going to give us the complete instructions in Marketing Cloud where you can go through it and then you can create the keys as well. So as Akash says, Akash use Putty because Putty generator, this is one of the key for generating the private and public keys in Putty generator. So you have your SSH2 terminal panel is going to be available where you can go and then generate the key. And then, but the only thing is this Putty, you have to store the key under .pvk format, and then you have to use the key and you have to save the key somewhere, and then you have to upload the key into your Marketing Cloud. So different ways to generate the Marketing Cloud key first. The step number one is, so what you have to do is you have to create a key with different formats as per Salesforce documentation. So the number one is you have to create a key using different terminals. So people use Mac, people use Putty generator, or people use your the Windows one, which I've told about, or initial thing using your command terminal for Windows. So use your command terminal. So step number one, you have to generate the key. So once you generate the key, what you do is you have to go and then log in with Marketing Cloud. So you have to go and then you have to click on setup. Ideally, I just remember the steps. Let me know if I'm going any wrong or something. All right. You have to click on the setup and then click on administration. After administration, you have to click on your data management. Yes, click on data management. Once you click on data management, you have an option to create. So click on create, and once you click on create, you have an option to select the SSH as a key type. Okay, SSH as a key type, and then you can enter the name of your external name or external key or anything which you wish. And after that, you can browse your file where you generated it at the time of your terminal, and then you can just upload that key and validate that key, and then click on save. So once you've done this, then you have to go and then attach the key to an FTP user. So once you've done this, you have to attach a key to the corresponding FTP user. Okay, and then you can just, the most important thing, you have to choose the desired authentication options. Which authentication option you want to go with the respective public and private keys, and then you can click on save. So this is the entire process of generating a public or private keys for Marketing Cloud, for especially on the security protocols. This is the best practice for enterprise companies where they use most of the times. Companies called big companies like Snowflake, or big companies, but you have your internal team who supported us. I think I would recommend requesting you to, I think there's a documentation for sure, if I'm not wrong. If anyone can post the link in documentation, so definitely help you out for just creating the key. If you want a session to be conducted on the keys, just let me know. What I'll do is I'll just plan for one session to go through, and then I'll ask one of my team member to create a end-to-end key using different terminals. All right. Yes, Srikala. So the SSH process is for FTP configuration, because that is the only place where you can ingest the data into Marketing Cloud. So that is where, when I work with a company called biggest financial company in US, so they're having a different systems altogether: Oracle Responses, Braze, Marketing Cloud, Snowflake, and because the data sitting in Snowflake, where they would like to send the data to Marketing Cloud, and they're not satisfied on the compliance. So where they're not satisfying on the compliance, so what they requested is to create a public key and then hand out the public key to them, so that they'll use that as an inbound and outbound for securing a file transfer for a single user. Yeah, I think Aishwarya, Putition. So mostly Putition is the right way to go ahead. So all right. So yeah, Kanika, you ask questions. So what are the questions you're asking?
Panir, the question is that the ways to clean the data in the Marketing Cloud before it being used in the campaigns. So the classic problem that I faced while dealing with the client is that we ask the customer to upload the data for an IP warm-up, because usually when we do an IP warm-up, we have to start at that initial stage before the integrations takes place. So integration from any third party over the CRM, it usually takes a time. So to avoid that delays, we ask the customers to upload the data into the marketing cloud manually, or maybe to an FTP, and use it for the IP warm-up process. But sometimes the customer start playing with the tricks and they upload a bad data with the good data that we have. So what are the approaches that or the best practices that we can use in a marketing cloud to avoid those situations? Is there any way of doing it?
It's a good question, actually. So I would like to bring that up in the, as a parallel discussion. So thank you, Kanika, for asking this question. So first of all, I would like to, talk about one situation which we came across recently, but this is a common problem, I believe, for every company. So nowadays, CRM is the most powerful tool for creating a customer 360, and then you can generate your sales funnel, sales lead generation, and you can use a service cloud for managing your customer expectations to support their agents and resolving the cases, right? So when you're talking about CRM sales and service, Kanika, I would like to explain one scenario before that, and after that, I'll come to your point as well, all right? So when you have a CRM called Sales Service Cloud, so there are customers where they would like to leverage a marketing cloud and the sales service cloud. All right. So this is a typical the great advancement of a Salesforce is to all the clouds have been internally connected, very user friendly, using a marketing cloud connectors, and they have internal sales service cloud connectors for Interaction Studio and a couple of other connectors, which is really good. So when you're working with CRM, you already have a CRM, you just onboarded the marketing cloud. So ideally the Salesforce AEs have been pitching up saying that you have a direct connector between these two, where you can, get the most profitable value from your sales service team's perspective. So that's the biggest statement that what Salesforce our account executive does is, but it's absolutely right, because when using a marketing cloud connect, so people are wondering that there are so many things that you have to do before you synchronizing data between your CRM system versus your marketing cloud marketing platform. So there's a concept here when you use a marketing cloud connect, so which is nothing but a synchronization between CRM data to marketing cloud. So CRM is your source of truth. So that's we can call it a source of truth of data. But CRM, you're getting a data from different lead generation pages, and they could talk about this data has been created manually by one of your sales rep, and it's cleared by support agent also got a request to create a lead data inside the system while they're talking to any one of the new customer. So you have different ways to come the data into systems. So like websites, email to web to case, email to case, web to lead, email to case. So different channels is consumed, different channel or manually. So this data has been hitting into sales service cloud, but I would recommend a couple of things not to make a duplicate data traveling into marketing cloud. Irrespective, this is one scenario where I would like to talk about it now. Let's consider this is a use case where different kind of leads have been coming into CRM. So number one, I know some of the audience in our current bootcamp, they already have very well versatile with CRM systems. They are admins in CRM and they're really good at marketing cloud, and they know the entire process of how to connect CRM to marketing cloud via marketing cloud connect. At the same time, I would request sales service teams to do such kind of few kind of enablers. The one enabler, what I would requesting is, number one is to enable data deduplication rules using data management option. You have a match rules and fuzzy rules concept in sales service clouds where you could hardly eliminate all your duplicates. Some teams comes up saying that we can't use this match rules or duplicate rules kind of a mechanism because our system is enterprise system where different kind of a data coming from different sources, and using these fuzzy rules, it doesn't help us anywhere. All right, so that's the question. So second point is few companies don't like a concept of number one concept. They don't want to enable duplicate management, like a deduplication. All right. So if they don't want to go with this kind of a deduplication, so let's imagine if if you fall under second scenario, right, and you are very new to the system, and which you really don't know, how to connect Marketing Cloud Connect and what is the scenes behind Marketing Cloud Connect, right? So ideally, in this kind of a scenarios, what will happen is, so in Marketing Cloud, when you synchronize the data, so you have a concept of synchronization in Marketing Cloud. So this synchronization, so each and every table, while you setting up the Marketing Cloud Connect, you have a concept of you can choose an objects, the source objects coming from Sales Cloud, Service Cloud. You can choose lead object, marketing lead. You choose, contact. You can choose accounts and all the respective objects, and then you have a couple of rules in Marketing Cloud before synchronization. So you have some sort of a rule criteria where you can have an option to sync the records. What kind of records you would like to sync with Marketing Cloud tables under Salesforce synchronization. So all the synchronization tables sitting under Salesforce, sitting under Marketing Cloud sync tables of Salesforce data extensions, calling as Salesforce data extensions. So here, while you're syncing data from Marketing Cloud to the main sync tables of Marketing Cloud, so you have a rule criteria which is defined. So within the rule criteria, you have an option that you can go and then define email not is equal to blank, not equal to blank, or mobile not equal to blank. At least some sort of area where you're, or there is some scenarios where country code not equal to blank. Sometimes where enterprise companies want the country code to work all these scenarios, right? So if you manage all these three very minimal conditions, all right. So with this minimal conditions, you always saves your 100% productivity. I can always say 100%, or at least 95% you are saving not to duplicate the data. Don't make the duplicate data coming from CRM systems to Marketing Cloud using these kind of criteria. But before this, before making any rule here, or before coming into the system, let's suppose you have a lead data, lead record, lead object, or a contact object. Mostly, these are all the two tables where you can consider the data to be synced to Marketing Cloud for a subscription perspective, the subscriber perspective. All right. So when you talk about why we do this, email not equal to, mobile not equal to, country code not equal to, why don't we stop as a right CRMs, what we define here? So why don't we stop all this process before the data will be syncing into Marketing Cloud? So ideally, the best practice, what we recommend is, I don't want to create all these things. This is a good practice for a second step. But step number one, as a person, what you have to do is, always as a best practice, for syncing a data between Sales Service Cloud to Marketing Cloud, the first step is, what you have to do is, number point 3, create one checkbox. Create one checkbox. Create one checkbox and write this checkbox is a formula field. All right. And then what you guys do is, or you can use this checkbox, just create a checkbox, you can use a formula field, and then you can just, whenever the data has been hitting in your lead or contact object with the blank email or blank phone or country code blank, automatically enable this checkbox equal to true. Okay. So it's a good practice to make the checkbox equal to true for any of the three values has been blank. And then don't sync this data back to Marketing Cloud. And you just use in your criteria, you just keep the criteria as, or your Boolean is equal to true. So you want to stop one variation versus the three variations. So this is a kind of a practice where you always have to, follow for not to make any duplicates coming from your source systems called Sales Service Cloud to Marketing Cloud. So it's always a good practice for us to see the better ways to deduplication, the better ways to stop the duplicates planning into Marketing Cloud. You have the 100% productivity. So now you have this. Now when you're using these contacts for sending a email or SMS, so you have 100% deliverability rates, right? Because you have a great data, you have not a clumsy data, the great data you're already sitting in Sales Service Cloud, and the same data which is sitting into your Marketing Cloud as well, right? So these are all the ways that people still can leverage for keeping your marketer safe, and that's one of the best option. But let's see if anyone has any questions. Way to use tokenized sending, it is email studio. Sorry, but not email studio. How can you delete if there is many duplicates as they don't enable duplicate management on CRM lead object? Yeah, Lakshmi, I think how can we delete if there are many duplicates as they didn't enable? So that I'll talk about now. So when you have PA, I think this is tokenized sending. Thanks, Aishwarya. So Lakshmi, let's consider this is a proper, this CRM also new system, and this marketing cloud also new system. And this is a good option that you enable at the end of, because formula field only works when the DML operation hits into your Salesforce database. All right. So let's talk an example. I have a system. I have my CRM system, which is already in place, and there's a plenty of duplicates. I have already an existing system, my source of system, the source of truth, which has plenty of duplicates already sitting in the platform. All right. So now, if you would like to enable this to a new marketing cloud platform, so this is already there while you start the synchronization, right? So what you can do is you can just apply this operation, like you can put rule criteria, email not equal to blank or mobile not equal to or anything before syncing to marketing cloud main tables. So that's the best option. The other option where if you want to clean up the CRM database, I would always recommend to have create some rules. I would always recommend to do this for every person, because what I'll do is I'll create one batch job, a batch Apex job. And within the batch job, I'm going to build my logics, the Apex class. I'm going to put all my logics based on the client requirement, based on the client duplication rules. So I'll ask to run this batch only once, because I want to clean at once my entire CRM. This batch will run only at once, at nightly. The best possible way is a nightly, because the load is very low in the nightly job in Sales Service Cloud. So I'm going to build a logic, and within the logic, I'm going to go and then target to my entire database to get the cleanup of all my CRM data. So I have a privilege that I can delete the data as well. If the client want to delete the data, I can use the delete the data. Or if the client want to flag the data, I can flag the data. And I'm using the flag to keep in the criteria, not to go any duplicates into the system. So this is the best possible approach that any person can take care. You can do a batch job and then do a cleanup so one time and then make the system as clean. I think, hope you understand this, man. All right, so this is one scenario where, when we talk about sales service cloud kind of scenario, but there's another scenario where Kanika has brought up. So ideally the scenario would be, if let's take an example of IP warm up, right? IP warm up, and this, we don't have, the client is completely a new to the system, but they do have a system of Snowflake, and from Snowflake, this data warehouse, their entire system is data warehouse. I want complete millions of records to be, I want at least on or around like maybe 5 million records for us to leverage IP warm up to warming our 2 to 3 IPs, right? So the only way that we could use this 5 million records to be ingested into IP warm up is through an FTP, an SFTP. So you're going to design your SFTP location. So you're going to feed the data into SFTP, but data warehouse, ideally, number one, Kanika, what I do is I'll request the data warehouse team to provide me the cleanup data as a note of my view, saying that, hey, data warehouse team, I think requesting you to provide the cleanup data for each and every customer that what I'm sending the data to Marketing Cloud. So for the customer data, what they're sending 5 million records of data, and this data, they have the customer ID as a subscriber key, and they would love to send the email address as a proper email address. I don't care whether it is bounced or whether it's going to be blocked or anything, but I always wish to have see email address as a value. So I request them to provide this kind of a data. So a kind of a person. Let's take an example if this is not going to happen. Okay. So let's example this customer ID, they given us a fuzzy data. Let's take an example. This data contains deduplicates maybe 10 customers having the same contact email ID, having the same email ID. All right. So here, these 5 million records will be landing into your SFTP. From SFTP, I always follow some sort of rules. So concatenation rules. So what it does is, as a person, I don't use the direct data to be sitting under loading the data into a data extension. I'm not going to do this kind of an operation because I never, as a person in a marketing cloud, I don't like to, completely move the data into data extension. But before I'm going to do some sort of checks. It's not only for 5 million team, but if you thought about 100 records or 200 records or 2000 records coming from a different system, some people, what that does is they'll use a concept of, data extension, export or import kind of an option. Import or export kind of an option. What they do is they'll have a CSV file. So what they do is they'll have this CSV file. And this CSV file, what it does is they'll directly ingest the data into a data extension. And they're requesting us to start using this data extension into our journeys for shooting IP warm-up email or campaign, right? So this is a fundamental process of every company's what they does. I see a couple of companies what they do this kind of a process for making their impact. But the real truth is with this CSV file, we don't have any data data specialist who take care of the file and then looking at as a duplicates or not. But sometimes where what will happen is it will be oversighted, and then the data will be inserting into data extension. All right. So this data extension where we have plenty of duplicates, and then we're going to use the journeys, and then we're going to shoot it. And ideally, it's because while you're inserting data extension, so you have, I don't know what's your business logic. You're going to use subscriber key as a email address, or you can leverage your subscriber key as a customer ID based on your request. But somehow what will happen is it'll get the duplicacy, and then it'll make your life so bad and worse as well, in fact. So this is one kind of scenario. The other kind of scenario is for big enterprise companies want to use your IP warm-up for warming up your 3 to 4 domain. So what will happen is in this scenario, I would recommend to have some automations with some few SQL query activities with properly concatenate all this information based on the emails, not to go and then inserting into the data with the same email address. If any record which is having the same email address, I'm not going to insert that data. I'm going to neglect the data and then load the proper data into the extension. If you're going to leverage this kind of an operation where the data will not be duplicate while sending an IP warm-up, and then if you feel the best option, always I would recommend is once you complete the warm-up, Kanika, so I always recommending to clean up the data using a simple subscriber cleanup option. So you have a concept of delete the subscribers. So you can just use the simple subscriber list, and then you can find out, or else you could build an automation with a proper queries. You could just target is the same data extension, and then you can use the delete operations to delete the data from Marketing Cloud as well. So these are all some of the options where you could clean up your entire database of Marketing Cloud, especially on the IP warm-up. But make sure everyone, if you complete your IP warm-up, I think it's always a best practice to load the right data for the IP warm-up as well, because the same customers you're going to leverage for transactional commercial, right? So I would requesting to keep the same data because your IPs are already warmed up for the same subscribers. So it's easy for us to get the good deliverability rates. Right. See if anyone has any questions. With the rule email or mobile number, with this only records will be fetched with those values or not null, but how come duplicate records will be filtered with this rule? You can use person contact ID as any kind of identifier based on that. That's right. Thanks, Aishwarya. In case and place already, and duplicates were moved to SFMC. Can we do anything at this stage? Yeah, so that's what Lakshmi, the one which I've told you, right? So it's already in place. If something happens, I think I'll leverage automation on top of it to eliminate the duplicates as well. Okay. Thanks, Akash. Thank you. Yeah, any other questions, team? Any other questions where we can discuss? I think these are all some of the great examples, team. So these are day-to-day things that we are looking into it as a common scenarios. But ideally, we are not figuring out how to do this. But the most important thing is to get the proper data coming into Marketing Cloud as a marketer, so that the marketer feels happy. That's where we're using Data Cloud, right? Because we're using Data Cloud for doing unification of the data record from multiple records, and then inserting that unification record back to Marketing Cloud, so that the marketers can use the data for targeting different channels for different campaigns. So if you want to do without Data Cloud for millions, trillions of records, I think this is the only option that what we discussed about it. All right, any questions, team? Thanks, Srikala. Thank you. Yeah, it's a community that we can grow up, and then we would love to give back to what we had thought. I think we have great speakers, great trailblazers who are coming up and then taking a lot of effort to sharing your knowledge with everyone, because when we're sharing some knowledge with everyone, so at least we will get a great sense that we never forget about that thing actually. So we're planning great cross cloud integrations over the line, so that cross cloud integration definitely beneficial for everyone to learn something on how to integrate different systems to Marketing Cloud at the same time. how to sync the marketing cloud data back to B2C commerce cloud, and then leveraging a great campaign analytics for the commerce team to engage and build some personalized campaigns on top of it as well. So I have super cool sessions which are conducting down the line. I would recommending and requesting everyone to join that. It would be great actually. So we have Aishwarya who is delivering some sessions on down the line for development, and she's really good. And Akash has delivered a couple of sessions, and he has his own blog. And I would request him to go through his blog. And then I think I like Akash blog because I would like to shout out because I just gone through Akash blog SFMC gigs, and then I see a couple of tips. This is not the one, right? I think I had. What is this? Akash, what's your blog? No, Samuel, there's no quiz. SFMC stack, yeah, right. So, yesterday or before yesterday, I see a couple of things in your blog, especially when I go through, tell about couple of tips, actually, facts and tips, yeah. Yeah, so there are some of the tips where Akash has been given, so especially on content builder, and he brought a couple of, throttling, he brought a couple of permissions across. I would requesting to go through this blog also. I really like Akash. Thank you so much. It's good actually. I really love it. Yeah. So if anyone has anything which you can go through and then get some sort of understand some cool SFMC tips and tricks as well for persons like Akash and other. There are a lot of trailblazers who are really keeping us encouraging and motivating us to learn something on this. All right, team. If anyone has any questions, if not, I think we'll wrap the session, and we can join our next Tuesday session with the data cloud setup. I'm going to talk about the data model. I'm going to talk about the data cloud setup, how to set up the data cloud, how to set up the sales service cloud to data cloud, how to bring the data from sales service clouds, how to bring the data from marketing cloud to CDP, and then. So this is just a connector, sir. I'm not going to design unification, but the unification process is going to be happening in the later sessions. But I'm going to showcase how to connect two systems and bring the data into CDP. That's it. Which is data cloud, not CDP. All right, team. Any questions? I'll wrap it up. If not, I think we are good. Thank you for joining with us once again. It's a short session, it's like a 1 hour session today. We have a great session in the next couple of blogs. There are plenty of sessions are going on. I would request and recommend to attend all the sessions and keep blazing our trailblazers and then learn something on this. And thank you, Aishwarya. Thank you, Lakshmi. Thank you, Akash. Thanks, Sheila. Everyone for putting it together. Thanks, Kanika, for joining with us. I hope, Kanika, you understand this use case and what we talked about it, right?
Yeah, Penny. Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Aishwarya. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye. Take care.